Welcome back, everybody. This is Tony, and you're watching Yesteryear. And today we're going to be covering the horror films of 1939. These are the horror movies that we loved of 1939. Before we get started, click subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. And let's cover the horror films that we loved of 1939. First up we have is The Son of Frankenstein. Drama, horror, and sci-fi, returning to the ancestral castle long after the death of the monster. The son of Dr. Frankenstein meets a mad shepherd who is hiding the comatose creature. Together they revitalize and make The Son of Frankenstein, true classic of 1939. Next up we have is The Human Monster. Drama and horror. Insurance agent physician collects on policies of men murdered by a disfigured resident of the Home for the Blind, where he acts as a doctor on call. The Human Monster will not disappoint. Next up we have is The Hound of the Baskervilles. Crime, horror, mystery, and horror. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson investigate the legend of a supernatural hound, a beast that may be stalking a young heir on the fog-shrouded moorland that makes up his estate. The Hound of the Baskervilles will not disappoint. The Cat and the Canary, comedy, horror, and mystery. When an eccentric family meets in their uncle's remote, decaying mansion on the 10th anniversary of his death for the reading of his will, murder and madness follow. The Cat and the Canary. Next up we have is The Phantom Creeps. A military intelligence officer and a pretty reporter try to find a scientist whose inventions can destroy the world. Action, family, and horror. The Phantom Creeps will not disappoint. Next up we have is the legendary classic The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Drama, romance, and horror. In 15th century France, a gypsy girl is framed for murder by the infatuated Chief Justice, and only the deformed bell ringer of Notre Dame Cathedral can save her. True classic and gem, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Charlie Chan at Treasure Island. Action, crime, mystery, and horror. Charlie Chan's investigation of a phony psychic during the 1939 World Exposition on San Francisco's Treasure Island leads him to expose a suicide as a murder. Charlie Chan at Treasure Island. Next up we have is The Return of Dr. X, horror, mystery, and sci-fi. A hotshot reporter and a young doctor team up to investigate a series of grisly murders and a mysterious sample of synthetic blood. The Return of Dr. X. The Face at the Window, drama and horror. Set in France in 1880, a series of murders is attributed to a wolfman. The Face at the Window will not disappoint. If you're into scary movies, The Face at the Window is a must-watch. Check it out. Next up we have is The Devil's Daughter, drama and horror. Sylvia Walton returns from Harlem to take over a Jamaican plantation from her vindictive half-sister amid the growing sound of drums. The Devil's Daughter, drama and horror. This movie's pretty good. Check it out. The Human Monster, drama and horror. Insurance agent physician collects on policies of men murdered by a disfigured resident of the Home for the Blind, where he acts as a doctor on call. The Human Monster. This is a scorcher. A lot of jump scares. Pretty good. Next up we have is The Gorilla. Not King Kong, but The Gorilla. Comedy and horror. When a wealthy man is threatened by a killer known as the Gorilla, he hires the Ritz brothers to investigate. A real escape gorilla shows up at the mansion just as the investigation arrives. The Gorilla. Comedy and horror. Next up we have is The Man They Could Not Hang. crime, horror, and sci-fi. When Dr. Svard's experiment in cryonetics is interrupted by the short-sighted authorities, his volunteer dies and he is condemned to death. He vows vengeance on all those who get in his way. Torture ship, horror, and sci-fi. A mad scientist performs experiments on the criminal mind on captured criminals on board his private ship, the torture ship. So what do you think about the torture ship? Those were the horror films that we loved of 1939. Were there any movies that I left out? Let me know. I want to hear about them. What were some of your favorite horror movies of 1939? If you haven't seen these, check them out. I highly recommend them. If you're a horror buff like I am, and there's no other horror buff other than me, because I am like the king of horror. Just ask anybody. I am the king of horror. I'm just joking. Those are the horror films that we loved in 1939. I'm telling you, you're watching Yesteryear today. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.